AfroTech World, Will Lucas here, and I have the pleasure of talking to two fantastic women in tech and business and even sports here today. I have Ros Gold-Onwude, who's an American sports broadcaster, American Nigerian sports broadcaster, native of New York City. She played college basketball at Stanford and played on the Nigeria women's national basketball team. And I have Morgan DeBaun, CEO and co-founder of Blavity. Welcome to both of you today.
What's up, Will?
Thanks.
So I'm super interested in this conversation. I told Ros before we got on, I'm here to learn, because NFTs is something that, is a huge conversation in our social discourse, particularly if you are into anything crypto. And just before I dive into the questions, I want to just kind of level set, and I'm going to allow, if I'm going to give a layman's definition of what an NFT is. And then if you can add some color to that, if I do a terrible job. So I read this online, so hopefully...
Before we even get started, I was going to say too, we got to tell people how we got here. Yep. Because they're probably like, why is Morgan in this panel?
They're probably like, why is Ros in this panel? I'm like, why is Ros here?
So let's talk about that. So I imagine, this is bigger than just, people who are invested, but also interested in Morgan, like you're an artist, because I do want to talk about this also. So I'm interested in, throwing some questions at you about the art that you create. So let's talk about your involvement today in NFTs, Ros.
Yeah. So I think the voice that I have here is as someone who should sound really relatable, and someone who is curious, who has been fascinated, who has been active and eager and learning and making friends in the space of crypto and NFTs. I started in January, to be honest, right at the beginning, end of 2020, top of 2021. In NFTs, that could make you an OG in some ways, I know, because the space moves so fast, and I have picked up quite a lot of knowledge, but I'm learning. And my profession, I am a sports broadcaster for ESPN. I cover the NBA and WNBA, but somehow I have found myself also with a lane emerging in the intersection of sports and crypto and NFTs, which is actually exploding because like an artist who creates art, like athletes are creators, we're all creators, and NFTs are quite empowering. So the long story short of why I started, and then later, if you want, Will, I will, give you my thoughts on what an NFT is and does, but I found my reason of getting into this space was literally at the pandemic. Everything was exploding. People were exploding in stock. People were, making money in crypto. And literally, I had enough people around me that I was aware of crypto, but I was intimidated. And I felt like ignorance was bliss, and it wasn't. And I was tired of it. And I challenged myself to just try to learn about it, read a few articles, just be like aware and get my feet wet. And once I did, I was able to be active, and it was not hard. It is not hard at all. And I've made great communities and have even seen some gains and value here. So some gains. No, you can't be humble on this panel. So I just want to say that because I know that for a lot of everybody, period, us and just everybody, like, we're worried that we're too late or that, it's intimidating. And my encouragement would be ignorance is not bliss, and at least try to educate yourself and make decisions from there.
That's a fact. Morgan, what would you say about your involvement so far in NFTs?
Yeah, so we were talking a couple months ago in LA, and she was telling me about her NFT portfolio, and I was just asking a bunch of questions because I was just like, I just did not have the capacity at the top of this year, or really even last year, to like learn anything new. We are already learning new things with COVID and, pivoting the business, pivoting AfroTech into this metaverse experience that we had last year. And like many of you all who are watching this, I kind of was like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand why people are paying all this money for like something that other people also can get a copy of. Like, I just didn't fully understand. And then this summer, I got like some Samsung TVs frames in my house, and with the frames, they look like art. but they're, your TV. So I have one in my bedroom. I have one, in the other parts of the house. And then I started buying art for it. And I was like, hold up. Aha. I get it. Like, one of the things that I love about Afrotech and technology in general is just that, you know, there are the people who are ahead of the curve, and pretty much anybody who's watching this right now is ahead of the curve, right? And I'm a Midwestern person, so I'm from St. Louis. So I remember when like fashion would hit in New York and LA, and like we wouldn't get it to 6 months later, or like a single would drop in New York or the Bay, and like we wouldn't get it to like 8 months later, And so it's the same way in tech. And so I felt like it was really important as a student of innovation, a student of like digital everything, that we had this conversation here. We made it from a relatable, approachable point of view. So I was like, I will be the tribute. I will be the person who asks all the dumb ass questions about NFTs, and we should just make this conversation public. Because I was going to pay her to like teach me. I was like,
Girl,
can I buy you
bye. Stop.
dinner?
This is my actual this is my actual real life like friend, Morgan, like real friend. I like to brag, I'm proud of everything that she's done, but also, one of my homegirls that I can actually talk about business, and tech with. And that is something that I value dearly, because that's not always the case in female friend groups. So this was a rare occasion where Morgan was like, wait, can you tell me about something? And
Yeah, like we record this for everybody, because I think the thing with Afrotech is we want everything to be accessible. We want people to feel like, okay, this is a space where you can go and you don't have to feel dumb or like you're naive or like, oh, you missed the boat because you don't have a piece of ether, like
But
whatever.
Morgan,
This is
we are the metaverse. I mean, you already had the metaverse last year as Afrotech. You're low key a thought leader in the space right
It's a
now,
fact.
because you had avatars. Like, this Afrotech is the metaverse right now. We are in one. If you're wondering what is a metaverse, like right here, right now, you're here, and you can't ignore this anymore, as like huge companies are filing patents and like all sorts of stuff, because they're getting ready to unload into the metaverse. Even Facebook, try to take over the entire name and said we're Meta.
meta.
So like it's hard.
And Microsoft has a new product that they're launching soon too. They've been testing it, but it's about to get heavy with Microsoft Teams. And that, you'll be able to show up to that with your avatar in a conference
Yep.
call.
Crazy.
Crazy.
So this is happening.
Yeah.
So I would pay attention and just try to. This is the first step.
Yeah, so let's define what an NFT is. So again, I'm gonna give you my layman's, and then Raj, you can go ahead and add some color to this. So non-fungible, it itself just means that it's unique. It can't be just switched out for something else. So like a Bitcoin, if I give you one, you give me one, that's fungible. So an NFT it's a one of one effectively. So if I've got a 97 Kevin Garnett trading card, and I trade you with another card, then I've got a different card altogether. But an NFT, again, it's that one of one.
Yeah.
So would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I think I'll just add a little color of like why that's significant and what makes it special. Like, so yes, there's this, it's distinctively unique. There's only one. And this is why, like, I'll say this, certainly within NFTs, there's a lot of noise, a lot of attention to big money projects, PFP avatar projects that you're like, why is this picture selling for this amount of money? I can't say that all of this is 100% going to be standing the test of time in 10 years from now, in 5 years from now. The technology is new and exploding, and so there's a lot of noise in the midst of it too, but it doesn't mean that the foundation of it isn't significant. And when I wrap my head around it, fundamentally, I do believe that it's going to be disruptive and transformational. So I'll add like why. On top of it being one of one, it's also because it's written on blockchain, right? There's this ledger. It's a really easy way of seeing, transactional history of ownership and many other details. Blockchain don't lie, and people will get caught on that. So like, it can tell any NFT, you can tell who has owned it, how hands were traded, what it was ever offered for, what was ever bid on it for, how it was sold, dates and time. So because of that, I could see the technology itself being very useful for industries like, real estate or, deeds and titles. And, there's a number of industries that it can be disruptive for. Certainly you look at the music industry. Let's go to the idea of it being like for creators. whether it's an artist or myself as a broadcaster or a celebrity or an athlete, or as we're starting to think of ourselves, even you, when you are creating anything, it can eliminate middlemen, and it'll take you directly to your audience, to your consumer, to your fan base, and allow you to create something that now you're creating a more engaged fan and consumer. Because once they buy this, they're now more invested. They have something that they own that as you rise, so does the value of their piece. So now they're sitting here super engaged with you and invested in your rise. It also creates communities that are strong because you're tight knit together. We all own the same NFT. We're all part of this NFT group. So we are now collaborative. We are working hard to build it together. So now you've got a more engaged community. You've got a better engagement between consumer and producer, fan and creator. And I think that NFTs are also like special. I forgot what the other reason was, but like, I feel like these are all really like important reasons for NFTs to be revolutionary. And I'm excited about it. Oh, and I'll say this too for artists, and I'm sure you might have heard this too. Like, I think for creators, it's important because it protects you over the span of your trajectory of your career. So like, let's say Basquiat or any artist at the beginning of their career was selling at $100 for a piece. That's it. You never see it again as it trades hands over the course of time. But because there are royalties built into the blockchain, which can never, these smart contracts hold forever, like you're constantly being protected and rewarded over the course of time and career. So I think there's a lot of things here that are exciting about the technology itself.
Yeah. And I'd add too, just like one of the things that I've been thinking about, other ways to use NFTs, because I think something that gets people, like the everyday person, caught up is, oh my gosh, people are spending $1 million for this like digital piece of art. Like, why? Right? But NFT is a concept. That's an application of the concept, right? And it's like, it's not just about selling art or selling a tweet, right? Or selling, there's so many different things. So I'll give you another example. We were thinking about for WorkSmart, which is my advising program, we were thinking about making WorkSmart a membership and only having 100 members in WorkSmart, and you have to buy it as an NFT, right? And WorkSmart's for entrepreneurs. So if you're a smart entrepreneur, you might be like, I'm gonna buy this for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. But then as I get bigger, as WorkSmart gets bigger, you can trade that up. You could either stay in the membership or you can trade and get out. But now you're able to flip it and you make 20K because somebody's willing to pay 20K to get in this group of people, right? So there's so many different ways people are thinking about NFTs for events. What does it look like for AfroTech ticket to actually be an NFT?
I think the most valuable, like an NFT often will show its value in its real world utility and its utility. Like what, sometimes it can be about status and what it's showing as a digital currency, if you will. Like the idea of the metaverse is like this idea that our digital lives are going to be far more important than they even are right now. And like that suddenly, certainly there can be status symbols like our Rolex or like a Range Rover or something, your avatar or what you own in your crypto wallet is going to be a form of a flex, a digital flex. But I also think utility is important. What does it gain you access to? How does it enhance an experience? How does it build a community? What do you feel more part of? So utility is really important when we talk about NFTs.
Yeah, and so as with cryptocurrency, I own my Ethereum on any platform that I'm on, and I want you to help me understand, like particularly with like NBA Top Shot. So if I've got an Ethereum coin, it's in my wallet. I can put it on any platform I want to because it's mine. It belongs to me. If I understand it, like on NBA Top Shot, I own it only on that platform. It's like a license on that platform because I can't use the image however I want to use it. I don't have rights to it off of that platform. Help me understand first if I fully comprehend that.
Yeah.
And then, where's the long-term value if it's not portable, and I don't have the right to use it outside of that, that platform.
So first and foremost, let me say like NBA Top Shot, WNBA Top Shot, which just launched this summer too. Shout out to the ladies. And in that, this is all created by Dapper Labs on Flow blockchain. So the name of the blockchain they're using is Flow. Is one of like something I'm really excited about. It actually, and I want to make sure to point this out. My first NFT was through NBA Top Shot. And I actually was in NFT NYC first week of November. And this was, one of the bigger kind of conferences. I was like, I'm gonna pull up. And I was laughing at myself. I was like, damn, Roz, you really became a whole NFT like nerd out here. You going to NFT conventions in New York City and stuff, and crypto conventions. And I really did. And I wanted to meet the people that I've been, on Discord with or on Twitter with, as we say, IRL, in real life. And so, I went, and I actually, for many people, especially within the sports world, Top Shot, one of their greatest legacies is going to be that it was their entry point into NFTs. The boom of Top Shot absolutely was one of the catalysts we can point to the overall like public eyes on this space. And I work often with them just because it combines my passion. I love basketball. And I've been really fascinated by NFTs and crypto lately. And I cover the intersection. That being said, I hosted a great event, packed out for NBA Top Shot out at NFT NYC. Quavo performed, it was lit. But that being said, like, I'm not that technical. I have heard the critique that technically it's not as decentralized as we'd like to see our decentralized crypto and NFT world. However, so I personally cannot speak on what they're doing around that, but I will say this. Top Shot, I'm bullish on it, and here's why. Like, through an NFT, through the Top Shot moment, that the digital play that you own, you don't own the rights to the play or the merchandising or the video image itself, but it's still part of a huge community where it absolutely is using this concept of you collect something that means something to you. It's the future of your fandom. Like, how often do we watch a game, go to a game, we see great plays, and that's the last we really get to interact with it. We might talk about it at the dinner table, but it lives and dies there. And now there's something we can take from this, collect, showcase, build communities around, stunt with, get excited about, continue to increase your fandom around. Like, I think, and because it's an NFT, the serial numbers of that play and moment, like, will define that it is absolutely yours. And by having good information, you can invest early on players, say a rookie or someone who's on their way up. And if you were smart and made a right decision, sure, you could build a collection that's quite valuable too. So there's a lot conceptually that's very exciting about what Top Shot has done and is doing, on Flow blockchain.
My brain is spinning right now. I'm just like, oh, what I wouldn't have done to like own a piece of Beyonce's Coachella
Girl,
performance.
what?
I mean, like, just think about the moments where you're like, wow, like that was iconic, and you're in it, and you're like, this is iconic, right? But you're an early adopter. You're one of a fraction of the people in the entire universe who are in the moment in real time, who have that unique perspective to say, this was a hit. This was the moment. And now the universe and the world and technology is giving you an opportunity to commercialize that, right? And to bid on it and to take a bet on it. It's just like the stock market, right? It's like, I remember when I was in high school and I was like, Netflix is nailing DVDs. This is the moment, right? And I put a bet on it, right? Like, that was it. Or driving around in SF or in the Bay, when people were driving around in Teslas, I would come home and people would be like, what's a Tesla? I'm like, oh, that's the unique insight. That's the moment. So I think for anybody watching this, again, like, the point of this conversation is to reduce the likelihood that your brain is telling yourself that you're not smart enough, you're not in the know enough to participate in blockchain, Bitcoin, NFTs, and all of the things crypto. You are already in the moment. So you can just start today, like just start now. And that's definitely want to make sure we talk about that, like how to get started. I don't own any NFTs because that's why we're having this conversation. I was going to wait till today to be like, okay, I'm going to buy my first NFT today. Darian Simone is selling one of her tweets. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll bid on that today. But just curious what your advice is. And Will, do you own any NFTs?
No, I was actually waiting for this conversation too. I told you I came here to learn, to figure out, so I don't, get scammed. Number one, but so I understood what to do because you had a tweet up recently that talked about like these PFP, like the profile picture NFTs, and it's not just about that, but it's also about things that just mean something to you, investing in that art. So can you talk about that, because that really piqued my interest, because it's not just about buying a cyberpunk for tens of thousands or millions of dollars in some cases, but it's about this piece means something to you. So I want to buy that, even if it's by a local artist who has no name recognition nationally. Talk about, that entryway. How do you know how to mint something if you're a creator, and then how do you place your first bet as an investor?
Yeah, I can speak to my experience with that because I know right now a lot of the headlines that can also be like, it's a lot of noise. A lot of the headlines coming out of the NFT space are these PFP, avatar projects where you see, positive platypuses or, silly salamanders or, and you're seeing what prices they're going for. There's a lot of noise in the space. They're mostly replicating the success of some projects that honestly will be quite successful. Like the OG PFP project in this space is a CryptoPunk.
The crypto
Yeah,
punk,
and there are actually older.
Jay-Z's got one. Yeah.
And Jay-Z got one. So this has become social currency. I mean, Jay-Z's got it. You've seen Stephen Curry is a Bored Ape. I mean, there's a number of celebrities that are Bored Apes and have CryptoPunks. But, I would say for this, CryptoPunks have historical significance. They're not necessarily the first ever NFT, but they're largely considered like historically the first like real community project. And so I think that will always hold value. In fact, when I first invested in one, I said, if I really believe that NFTs are important, then I believe that I have to bet on a CryptoPunk. And I did that a little bit earlier. And the Bored Apes phenomenon was something that came from the people, which is why we'll see how it goes over the test of time. But this is fully community backed and an intense community, because the crypto folk and people coming in and people that existed there were getting quickly priced out of CryptoPunks. And so the people themselves, like, I remember it happening. It was just a few months ago. And like the apes dropped. There was a drop. And it was like overnight. And suddenly, like, it was like a few names, then all the big names, then everybody was rushing to get one. And then there were these clubhouse rooms and Discord rooms, and people were literally it was like wild. It was wildfire. People were literally on Clubhouse, like going, ooh, ooh, ah, ah, like making crazy noises. And the Discord was like such a crazy engaged community and going hard. And they have events, they have merchandise, they have brand equity. They've built a huge brand. Not all of these PFPs are doing that, but what Bored Ape Yacht Club has done is quite impressive. They even have tiers and levels for, if you've been priced out of the Bored Ape, you can get a mutant ape, you can get a dog. Like, there's all sorts of ways to get into the club. That being said, my entry was through NBA Top Shot. And and that was very easy for me because I love basketball. And Flow and Dapper Labs made it very easy. I didn't even have to buy these with crypto. They had a credit card option. So they met me where I was. And I think that's, when we talk about, I'll let you reteam me, Will, on like how can people drop their own NFTs? Like you think about, how do you reach, who is your audience and where are they? Are they crypto natives or are they still not there yet? And different platforms provide different things. But after I did that, my next step was, all right, I heard that they had some crypto art. Morgan, you might know, like, you haven't been to my new crib, but my whole house is covered in art. My whole thing is art. Like, also, I got from places I've been, people I've met, everything is very intentional for me in my home. So it was natural for me to say, let me collect some digital art. My first inclination was, I want to find Black artists. Are there Black crypto NFT artists? So I actually reached out. I DM'd a big name in the space, Pranksy. I didn't know who Pranksy was. I DM'd Pranksy, who, if you're in crypto and NFTs, you know who Pranksy is. And I was like, yo, and I didn't even know he was going to respond, but I was like, hey, I'm looking for Black artists. Do you know any? And so then he sent me to follow Kai, who had made a list of Black artists in the space. So then I spent a few hours actually going through all the Black artists, seeing their work, reading bios, and I DM'd a few. And actually the first Black artist and my first piece of NFT art that I bought was the Aku series, which is by Micah Johnson. And he is a former baseball player turned artist. And it's about a little Black boy who asked his mother if black people could be astronauts. And so it's a really hope-filled series. So that was my first piece. And I started to collect one of one pieces of art after that. So like the point there is that, yeah, there's these 10,000 count PFP projects, but NFTs can be very intimate. They can be very significant and very valuable because of that bond and that rarity, because if they're one of one. I eventually have even commissioned art by Yasnir, one that I asked him to make about my mom and my dad. My dad recently passed, my mom is sick, and it's something that I really love that it was on blockchain because it's with me forever and it's mine forever. And I also have the physical version. A lot of my NFTs, I have a digital photo frame and I even have physical work. I've also collected Latabo, who's a South African artist, and she's up and coming and blowing it up. Check her out. And NFT art is really helping a lot of African artists as well, period. And artists all over, musicians and stuff. It's empowering them and creators. So that was my journey. And that's how I got started.
So one of the first ways, and I want you to chime in on this too, Morgan, because I love your Samsung, story earlier in this conversation. One of the first ways I got introduced to this, NFT world is my son plays Fortnite, right? And this social currency. So he wants the new skin that comes out, and there's a world that he lives in that if he doesn't have the latest skin, he could get bullied. Because I hear their conversations over these, remote virtual gaming platforms, and considering how a skin provides him some value, even if it's just social currency, how might you help people like where I grew up in the Midwest also, just like Morgan, I'm from Ohio. How can I explain this to my parents in a way that it's not just a virtual skin on a game? I was talking to another VC earlier, like if I were to go to my kids and say here's $100 in cash or $100 in Robux, they want the Robux.
100%. 100%. It's such a good question. And I think that as with anything with technology, when we're trying to explain it to the generations who came before us, you have to put it in a words that make sense to them. So we just had our first baby in the family. So my parents' first grandchild, my first nephew, and they have screens in a house, right? They had an Alexa. I upgraded them so that they get the Alexa with the little picture thing on it. I'm sure there's a word for it, so I apologize to Amazon, who's a sponsor, whatever the name is. They got it. I bought it for them. Okay, and you walk in their house, you wouldn't think they had any kids. They only have baby Micah, my nephew, because every photo on that thing is Micah. Okay, so we don't have any physical copies of his photos, right? We just have the digital version that was taken from a phone that is the real original file that is then given and shared across our family album, which is then displayed on this screen, right? And so that's how I would explain it to them. I'm like, Dad, my dad loves Jacob Lawrence. Dad, what if Jacob Lawrence of today, we're buying his art and it's just another thing that we're going to slide through, right? I think the hard part for people is when they can't interact with it, they can't see it. I think that the average person is going to we're a couple ways away in terms of like us being able to pull out our and I don't know what the name of it is. I'm sure there's a product that's like everybody uses, but where you have your art gallery, that's your digital art gallery, right? Like in the same way that y'all don't see my Schwab account, but it's there, right? And I have like the portfolio there, right? And now people have their Robinhoods and their public apps, and so I think that we're still, like Roz is saying, we're still really, really early. And these things, we're going to set the trends of how consumers and the average behavior. And in fact, we're going to probably work at these companies. We should be founding these companies. We should be angel investing in these companies. We should be like making it into and make sure that Black people are part of this economy because it's just in the beginning. And like, that's what AfroTech is all about, right? So let's not just be consumers of it. Let's be owners of it.
I'm so glad you said, before you answer this, Roz, I want to give you a twist.
Okay,
I want to give you a twist to her response because she just gave me something. I want to give you both of these things. You can handle this. I think it was Mark Andreessen who said, when we talk about how tech gains mainstream adoption, it's when the user interface catches up so more people understand how to engage with it. if for art that I own as an NFT, the only real place I can display it is in the virtual world. You know, perhaps, you know, or maybe it's a PFP and I can put it on my Twitter, you know, profile or whatever. From an exhibition perspective, how do I show people that I have this, or are we just waiting on the metaverse to catch up to where I can display all my CryptoPunks?
Yeah, it's a really natural question to understand, like, how can this digital thing manifest itself in my physical space? And I think one, we have to, wrap our maybe change our thought process too. It's not always like, how can this be physical? It might be like, what does ownership of this represent? Or what is ownership of this? What is the utility of this ownership? And, you know, I can't even say that I'm truly certain the way we're using NFTs today is the way we'll be using NFTs in 5 or 10 years from now. So it's hard to predict, but I know for a fact, like for NBA Top Shot, they've created like these digital type of frames where like you can play your plays and display them. There's been a number of really creative and thoughtful apps, sites that have come up where you can display your NFT collection, the ones you love most. You can create a showcase in really like almost museum-like spaces, where your avatars can move around and walk, but you can share with your room. People can move into your room and see what you have. You can even, I've been in metaverses where you can go walk up to a picture or a piece of art and a voice starts speaking to you from the artist or whatever about what went into making this. And you can do it from the comfort of your home, while also having the ownership. Yes, you can right click, save it, and, but you don't own it. You can't sell it. If you own it, you can actually own it and decide to make money from it. And actually, sometimes I think if I have an NFT that is popular and there's a large amount of people saving it and making it their profile pic or showing it publicly like it's theirs, I'm happy, because it's only increasing the visibility and the brand value of the NFT that I own. And so, it's almost like it's good business for me. So I would say there's all these different ways to explain it. Actually, Twitter has already announced they're going to do an NFT verification system, which many in the space think is going to make the space boom, because when you can verify through connecting to your, i.e. maybe your MetaMask wallet or whatever, that a certain NFT is yours and that's your profile pic, now you're talking about a digital flex and stunt. And the same way people spend money on a Rolex or that Porsche or whatever is the same way people, how much time do you spend on your cell phone? I don't even know I've lost my phone and I'm nothing without it. I'm nothing. My whole day is spent on Instagram, Twitter, all of this. You don't realize it. Like this, we are actually living rather digital lives, period. And now we have a way to verify ownership, just like we do in our physical lives with the size of our homes and things like that. So last thing I'll say about that is, you think about when I was a kid, we used to have photo albums. I don't own a single photo album that wasn't passed down from my parents, which I don't like. I actually want to have an album. I literally have to go to my Instagram and scroll down a few years to look back at, Stanford reunion or something. I don't have a physical photo album. Look how quickly that changed. So, there'll be a new way that we look at what is important to us visually.
Right. And I also, just one plug, Jack Dorsey's speaking in AfroTech World he's going to talk more about Bitcoin and talk a lot about the work that they're doing, overall. But I just think that this is so important that everybody's like tuning into these conversations, and I think Roz is right in terms of like, there's 100 different ways that this could go. And it doesn't really matter that we try to be right, because the thing is, you should build a portfolio. You don't just do one thing. You don't just buy one, fraction of one crypto. Like that's not how this world is working, right? It's a portfolio, and some things are going to work and some things are going to be duds. But the key is actually, the time is on your side. So do it now, right? Like every month, every year that you wait is like huge compounding returns on your investments.
Yeah.
Huge.
And there is fragments, and there's also fragmentalization of ownership, not only, of NFTs, just like you could buy a piece of a cryptocurrency or a stock, like now you can do that with NFTs too. Although it's still early enough where you might be able to get your hands on some, to have full ownership. But eventually I imagine things like punks, who knows, but maybe being something that only institutions can afford and, we buy into as pieces of.
Yeah. Wow.
And for the few minutes we
I
have
like your
left,
museum.
Sorry,
yeah.
Will. We're so
No,
fascinated. We're like, yeah, NFTs.
no. I mean, for the few minutes we have left, I'm interested in Morgan. Like, you're an artist. Like, I don't know if that's one of your pieces
Yeah.
behind you. Is that your piece?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So yes, I don't want to position how you are, but you like, maybe it's an outlet for you, or maybe like you want to be seriously an artist. I'll let you, speak to that. But like, do you see yourself or a desire to NFT your work? Because I think about, like, you're a celebrity entrepreneur. Like, people would want to have something that Morgan DeBaun, CEO of this amazing company, did. There's value there.
Yeah. I go back and forth on this question. I get it a lot as like I share a little bit more about myself outside of just my day job at Blavity. People are like, can I commission a piece? I'm like, bruh, you want me to spend how much time making this? We can't afford it. Okay. Like the money I make over here versus the money I could make on a piece of art. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's the right amount of time and value and where I am in my life, which is why it's a hobby for me. It's something that I feel really good about. It's things that I gift to other people. I also, like when I travel, I paint, just as also a way to kind of memorialize that moment in time and be really present with the physical space that I'm in. Um, and I think how I view NFTs for me as a business person and an entrepreneur, it's less about what can I create that I can sell. It's like, what do I already create that should probably or potentially be an NFT? Like, for example, like I was saying, the mentoring or advising or coaching. So like, how is it a ticket to a utility that I already provide? How is it that we can transact with one another and also build my tribe, like my tribe of work smarters, my tribe of people that I mentor and I advise? How do we make sure that that community is constantly growing and is self-fulfilling and that it is in itself an asset, both because of utility, but also because owning a piece of it is a part of the asset that will appreciate over time. And I mean, I think about other entrepreneurs that also have tribes. Like I think about an Oprah. Like what would people have done if Oprah had an NFT where you always get access to every event she ever speaks at, right? But she only had to pay 10K for it, 20 years ago. That thing would be worth $1 million, right? If Gary Vaynerchuk, same thing. If Gary V had an NFT and then now you could trade on it, wow, right? So I'm still figuring out what it means for me. I definitely think as I shift my time and start different businesses and build up different things later on in life, it's very possible that I become a full-time artist. It's just not where I am now.
And it rewards those communities that bought into you earlier, Morgan. Like you think about a music group that maybe you met when they were indie, right? And you feel like, all right, they blew up, they did Coachella, like now they're doing all these big things. You can barely afford to see them, like you feel like, damn, I lost track of them. I liked them better when they were smaller. You were there early. Now through an NFT, like you're almost rewarded for getting there early. You root for this artist that you love to do better, because the bigger they get, the more value you have as being early in the community. And I just want to shout out a woman, Latasha, that I just met at NFT NYC, and y'all should check it out if you're interested in her story. She was talking about being an artist and there are many artists with this story, just how hard it was for her to actually make money making her music. And she decided to start using NFTs to sell directly to her fan base. And not only did it strengthen her community, that they actually like kind of started party bids on like music video drops and things like that. She's made more money than the record labels would have ever given her in a single deal, and has really been empowered by using NFTs to take out the middlemen and all of the bureaucracy that left her often without money.
That's beautiful. And I think we have an NFT art gallery here in the metaverse. So make sure you guys check out the art gallery here in AfroTech because we've definitely curated some Black artists. Let's invest in them.
You were one of the first. Y'all were one of the first with a metaverse, man. Y'all been doing this. Come on now, flowers. Come on, AfroTech.
Yes,
Man,
yes.
when the COVID hit, we were working. We were like, oh my God,
Hey,
what's
these things
going on in
happen for a
gaming?
reason. Yes, these things happen
Yeah,
for a reason.
yeah.
And this
Shout out
this
to
feels like
Ashley.
Yeah, this feels like a great place to end this conversation. You know, be respectful of you guys' time. I really appreciate you, Roz, and all the gems you dropped today. Morgan, your insight as well. And the questions, again, I came here to learn. I feel more prepared to go spend a couple dollars on the NFT now. So I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Will. Morgan, would I have time to leave the people here with a few my thoughts of advice on how to get started if they haven't?
Please.
I would love that because I was just gonna say, okay, so I'm gonna go buy an NFT. What do I do?
So the first thing you would have to, you're going to need a wallet. A lot of people start with a MetaMask. There's a lot of different, you can also get a hard wallet to better protect your NFTs. But I'll just raise my hand. I started with Coinbase. I got a MetaMask wallet, and that houses a lot of my cryptocurrencies to help me like buy various NFTs. And you can buy NFTs on different blockchains. My advice would be understanding that all of this is risky. And so again, only spending what you can afford to potentially, lose. And also, collect things that you actually like care about and like, so that if it doesn't turn out to make you a billionaire one day, at least you're happy to have them, the NFTs. I think it's important to do, we say DYOR, do your own research, not financial advice. Don't FOMO into things like you see everybody talking about it. There's a lot of bag pumping. There's a lot of influencers. Like, do your research. And again, try to be thoughtful. Don't be in a rush to get in. Take your time and make a good choice. I would personally say take a long-term perspective because, crypto is often cyclical. I've been here like 8-9 months and I've already seen a few dips and crashes and then, huge bull runs. So, try to think of what your long-term perspective is. Let's say you bought ETH and let's say ETH right now today is at 4,000. Are you buying ETH for you to get a gain to see it to 4,400? Or is your goal to see, ETH at, down years from now at exponentially more? Like you have to think about, is your mindset to cash out quick in a few weeks or whatever, And then finally, my last piece of advice would be, you have to create friend groups. It's hard to do all of this alone. You should create chat groups where you guys are sharing information. The space moves really fast and you guys can help each other. Just sharing information and staying up to date. I have like 3 different NFT chat groups and some of them have helped me not lose money and some have helped me make money.
Beautiful. Can you have
Yes, definitely.
I love
Ros
it. I love it.
Gold-Onwude, Morgan DeBaun. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Will.